This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Mike Sedita.
Hello out there. Welcome to episode number 146 of the Good Neighbor Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sedita. I'm joined today by Fabian Yepez. He is the vice president for Prospera in the west coast of Florida. How you doing today, Fabian? What's going on?
Doing great, Mike. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, glad to have you on. I'm not sure how familiar you are with what the Good Neighbor Podcast is, so let me bring you up to speed. The Good Neighbor Podcast was started in 2020 during COVID, when everybody had to be socially distant from one another, and it was a way for businesses and business owners and entrepreneurs and charitable groups to let the community at large know what they had going on. And in the last 4 years, we now have Good Neighbor Podcasts in Denver, Philadelphia, Virginia, Atlanta, all over the U.S. I'm based out of Pasco County. I'm here in Florida. I get to talk to businesses all over Central Florida. And today we just happen to be talking about what Prospera is. So tell me a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Well, Prospera, it's an economic development nonprofit organization. It's based in Florida that specializes in providing bilingual assistance to Hispanic entrepreneurs. And basically, we're helping them establish or grow their businesses. We've been around. This is actually our 33rd year. We are now all across Florida. We're here we're in Tampa. Our headquarters is over in Orlando. We're also in South Florida, in Jacksonville, in West Palm. And in the last few years, we've expanded. We're over now we have offices in Charlotte, North Carolina, in Raleigh, and in Atlanta.
So if I understand correctly, an entrepreneur or business owner who English isn't their first language, the whole mission of the nonprofit is to help that business owner to be able to communicate clearly so they're not getting misled on a contract, or is that kind of the gist of it?
That could be a part of it, but however, what we do more is, as you know, many as Hispanics who are recently arrived or have maybe, less than 5 years in the country, there's always that they come and they're searching how to make it here in the U.S. They're really searching for
American dream.
There you go. That's exactly it. And so it's not as easy as many think. I guess people are expecting it's a little bit easier than you think. And not only that, there's the barrier of the language. All our services are offered in Spanish mostly, but there's also the way of doing business. So it's what we teach them how to start the business, how to establish the business, and we're able to teach them how to do business here in the U.S.
So like getting an LLC, setting up a corporate bank account, like an entity bank, like all those business services for a business owner who's just trying to figure out how to get there, how to hit the ground running and get it started.
Correct. And, being that the financial system is different and everything. So there's quite a learning curve there, and it can be any type of business. So, yeah.
Okay. So at the core of your services, again, I'm just hosting a podcast here, so I may be not really exactly understanding or maybe thinking too much into it, but I would think like my great-great-grandparents, when they came here, didn't have any money. They didn't really know. Or a lot of the people you're working with, are they coming over with funding, or is one of the big components to what you help them do is figure out how to get funding to start a business as a new immigrant?
Well, it happens both ways. There are people that have been lucky, and again, depending on the situation of how they left their country. Some people have had to leave for political situations or even security. But they come up, and some people have money to invest, so we can help them kind of figure out what to do. Others don't, and others are trying to get funding from the beginning. So, as you know, not every country works with. Many people don't understand the credit system here in the U.S. Yeah. So you have to kind of walk them through that as well. And we don't give them money. We're more of into the resource. Exactly, and we can help them with looking for money and everything, but we don't give it directly. So it's more like we teach how to fish versus giving them a fish.
So, right. All right. Great analogy. So so let me, a little bit about your background. I mean, how do you fall into this? Have you always worked with like people coming to the US to help them, or is your background in finance, or like when you were growing up, did you want to be an opera singer and you just kind of fell into this by accident?
This is completely by accident. Actually, I was born here in the States and I moved and I grew up in South America. I came back and my background is in advertising. I was had an advertising agency down in South America. I had one here. Everything was going great, but this, I think, I get to a point in your life where you want to kind of do a little change. I knew about Prospera. I had actually been on one of their committees. So as I turned out of that, the position opened, and I just went there, tried, applied, and had a few interviews, and it's almost 8 years ago, and I've been here, and I wouldn't change a day.
So a couple questions. South America, what part of South America?
In Ecuador. That's
Ecuador.
where I grew up. Yeah.
And then you said you owned an ad agency. So what type of ad agency? Were you a creative guy? Were you buying media? Were you doing full AOR type stuff? What was your role in the marketing world there?
All of the above. I owned a company down where I was basically in the creative side and looking for business. That actually grew up it was pretty successful. That's what then I came here and had an agency here in Tampa, which actually, as I left for Prospera, I sold my half to my business partner, and that's how it happened.
So that was going to be my next question. Have you in the States here? You've always been in Tampa, or you said you were? I know you have offices for Prospera in Atlanta and some other places, but have you always been settled here in the Tampa market?
I always have. Initially, the first 5 years, I came in 2000. I settled in Miami for a while, but now made the jump to Tampa, and love this area.
Avoided the traffic a little bit, got out of Miami. I mean, absolutely. I would think, like, I have friends of my family that I've known since I was a baby, 50 years, that are from Cuba. And they like a lot of Cuban Americans, they settled in Miami and that whole, South Florida area. So I would think that when you were telling me where your corporate office is, Orlando, when I'm first thinking of it, I'm thinking it's probably Miami, but I would think you have a big presence in Miami too.
We do. We have actually one of our largest, I think the largest office is down in Miami. But believe it or not, the Prospera started here in Tampa. It actually started here in Tampa. Yeah, the thing is, somebody from Orlando came and they looked at the model that was created here, and they kind of replicated it over there. And long story short, I think they were doing a better job over there, and they were getting more funding than they were getting here. So kind of merged, and that's where it took off.
So how big of an organization are we talking about? Is there a vice president of development in every city where you guys have a shop? Do you have multiple people in your home office in Orlando? Do you have sort of like a corporate group of people that provides resources? How big of an organization are we talking about?
Currently, we are at, in all of the organization, we are at 45 employees.
Okay.
There's vice presidents up in Charlotte. He manages Charlotte and Raleigh, obviously in Orlando, in Miami, and here in Tampa. Okay,
so what you're doing, I mean, this nonprofit is essentially helping people to capture the American dream at whatever level. Like, you're meeting them to where their need is, whether it's setting up the entity, helping with financing, helping with contracts. You're providing resources for these people in all these different areas. That's kind of heady stuff. Like, you kind of have their fate in your hands a little bit, because if you're not good at what you do, it's going to make it harder for them to do what they need to do. So would that be a fair statement?
I think it is, because there's a lot of I feel that there's some distrust sometimes, not distrust, but there's fear to the unknown. Usually when they're coming from other countries, any service that is offered for free, like our services, it usually isn't very good. So people will come in, business entrepreneurs will come in and they will start asking around, and they even ask is, if there's a catch or something, when are we going to charge them? And there's really no charge. And the great thing is seeing when they realize, when they keep working with us, sometimes for years, they see the benefits, and they see how much we've helped, and they recommend us to other people. And that's basically how we get people. It's all about word of mouth.
It's funny. I run into the same thing with the podcast, and we talked about this before we kind of went on here, is we offer the podcast for free. I mean, this is me investing 20, 30 minutes of my time and my team putting stuff together in an effort to expand our brand and to learn more about what type of businesses are out there. And for me, where it works, where the synergy of it works is, listen, we do marketing services. That's what we do. But it's not like a timeshare where I'm holding somebody down and trying to get them to sign on the dotted line. It's, let me learn about your business. If it's a fit for what we do in the community, then great. It might not be a fit for your business, but it's a way for me now. If I run into somebody who says, hey, I'm trying to start a business and English is my second language, I now have a resource to be able to say, hey, listen, you need to reach out to Fabian and talk to him. He might be able to have some resources for you to use. Is two questions. Garden variety, I mean, are most of the people Spanish speaking, or is it, I mean, if I'm guessing, I'm going to say it's 80% Spanish, and then, the remaining 20 is a mix between a bunch of other languages. But is there like a breakdown? Do you run into a bunch of different stuff?
I would say it's even higher. I would say it's closer to 95% of the people.
Okay, all right.
Because a lot of the people that recently arrived from Central South America, and they're still having problems with the language. That's one of the things that we tell them, when you get here, you have to learn a language as well. But in the meantime, let's start going. Let's start moving. Let's start establishing your business, and let's start causing some impact here.
And then do you have a Rolodex of like immigration? I mean, I don't know. Do the people you're working with, do they need like immigration lawyers? Do they need any of that stuff, or they have already kind of gotten established and they're figuring it out?
They're more kind of already established. Yeah. They're a little more established.
And is there a garden variety industry that people like? I mean, is it across the board? Is it restaurants? Is it detailing shops? Is it barbershop? Like, what is the types of business, or is it e-commerce, online stores? What are people trying to start?
It's absolutely. I mean, if this podcast would last 3 hours, I could have 3 hours giving you all the different types of businesses there are, and we would never finish. I mean, it's everything. I will have. And I always like to use this example that, you have the grandmother who wants to start a business, I don't know, baking empanadas, that's doing it out of her kitchen or whatever.
Right.
So we're trying to explain how to do it legally and how to do things right. But then a couple of years ago, we had this person that came over from Mexico, and he's working on this RFP over at NASA because he implements optimization for robotics on industrial lines. So, like I said, you get a garage to NASA, you get anything and everything in between.
So then to narrow it down, because we don't do 3 hours, but what are the top 3 most unusual ones? Like when I say you tell me the most unusual businesses, other than bidding for an RFP for NASA, what else is there where you're like, it sticks out? You remember it. Someone started a llama farm or so. I mean, what kind of crazy that when you talk about it, you go, these are the ones I remember.
It's one that's really that I always like to talk about. This person he started planting. He got a container, one of those shipping containers, and he created this controlled environment inside. And he started doing the micro, what do they call it? What do they call it? Micro beans or micro, when you get in salads, these micro, what are they called?
Like a superfood, like
sort of. Yeah. Well,
and he grew it in the container?
He grows it in the container, and that's what he's starting to produce those all around.
It's crazy. What's the beautiful thing that I love the most about what I do? Okay. So with the podcast, what's great about the podcast is stories like that, like hearing what people are doing out there to create a living for themselves and their family, and to try to do that. I mean, some of it from time to time I hear it and I'm just like, man, how the heck does somebody make money doing that? But people are out there doing it, and that's great. And then when I work with people in my communities, finding the niche that makes their business, helps their business get to the next level, that's the payoff for what we do with all of this stuff, which is great. But like, that has to me on a personal level, forget the work stuff, on a personal level for you as a human being, I go back to, you're helping people change their lives. So is that, I mean, what kind of, you don't seem like the type of guy who pats yourself on the back. But what kind of it's got to be super gratifying knowing that you're helping someone to try to find whatever version of the American dream they're seeking.
It is. It's coincidentally, I was speaking about this with somebody this morning, and I think you get to a point where you wake up in the morning and you don't say, "Oh gosh, I have to go to work right now," but you just go to work because you enjoy what you do, and you feel like you're making a difference. I feel, in this very little that I feel that I'm giving to the community this way, but the fact that you see these businesses of people that came here with nothing and I've now hired, they have a full group of employees, and they've been able to hire people, and they're their taxes, they're producing, they're helping other families as well. So it's just a little part of this whole system.
So when you're not doing this, when you're not working and helping people do this, what do you like to do for fun? How do you unplug?
Well, I coach a soccer team. I've been doing it for the last, go figure, the Hispanic guy coaching a soccer team.
Well, is it like a youth soccer team, or is it adult, like a men's soccer team?
Youth competitive. And been doing it since 05, 06. So I've been doing it for a while. So that helps me decompress. Like to ride around a little bit on my bike as well. So yeah, just, I guess, try to stay in shape.
So the youth competitive football or soccer, does it travel all over, or is it centered around that North Tampa, Temple Terrace, like that whole section of town?
It's Florida, it's not all over. We were down in Fort Myers a couple of weeks ago, and but it's still competitive.
And then and what ages are the kids?
Right now they are 12 and 13. I have a U14 team, so
12 and 13-year-old boys. That's got to be a lot of hormones and testosterone kicking in. That's got to be fun to manage.
It is. It's a hassle, but you know what?
It is interesting.
It gets me out of the house. It gets me out of the house.
Good.
At the end of the day, I do enjoy it.
And then from a, you said you like to take your bike out and stuff. I'm actually being roped into doing some cycling myself. I'm generally not a cycler. I don't have the cyclist's body. I don't have the ability to get those little bike shorts on, but I can get them on, but I don't know how great it looks. But do you do like I know in New Tampa, they have like the trail and stuff. Is that kind of where you're riding in the Lower Hillsborough Wilderness Preserve? There's a trail through there, or Flatwoods, whatever. Is that the kind of places you go?
I've done Flatwoods, and sometimes I go up to San Antonio there in Pasco. Yeah, used to do mountain bikes years ago, but switched over to something a little safer, I think.
Okay, so explain to me that, because I'm about to buy a bike. I'm probably going to invest in it, and I know they could get expensive. You could buy bikes that are $1,000 or more at this point, right? So when you say I don't want a mountain bike. Like, I don't want something where I'm going to go. I see these videos on Instagram where guys are riding and they have their helmet cam on. It looks like they're about to fall off a cliff. Yeah. That is not me. But I also don't want like one of these thin little, like when I was a kid, they called them 10-speed, street bikes. Those don't seem safe to me. So when you say you have a safe version, explain to me what a safe version is.
I guess safe version, because I used to do mountain bike down in Ecuador.
Gosh.
And so that's real mountain bike. That's up in the Andes. So
yeah.
So now you're really going down, not hills, you're going down mountains. And it was exciting. But as you get older, I think you get a little to get a little more responsible and a little more prudent. Yeah. So that's why I switched to going around in a loop in Flatwoods and trying to.
So is the bike? Is it like a road tire? Is it a little bit wider?
I see. Yeah.
So does it have a particular name? Like, I'm writing this down, Fabian. I want to know, because there's the bike shop right in New Tampa. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I don't want to plug them because they don't pay and sponsor the podcast. But I want to go in there and have an idea of what I'm looking at. So if you're telling me as a novice, what would you suggest?
Look, here's what I would do is, and what I did is first go in with an entry-level bike. Just go in with, see if you like it, because a lot of people get into it. They'll ride for a couple of months, and then that thing goes back in the garage, and you never see it again.
I feel like my butt's going to hurt a lot. I feel like I've done spin class, and my butt hurts a lot from spin class. So that's what I'm worried about.
You'll toughen up. Don't worry.
So let me ask you this. I mean, you've been here for 20 plus years. Since 2000 when you moved here. One of the questions I like to ask people, business people, and some of the things they've gone through. Has there been a time in your life where you've run into a hardship or a challenge where you said, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to get through this, yet somehow you persevered, and now you're in a position to kind of pay it forward by helping folks get their business on track?
Well, I think that one of the things that happened to me years ago, and when I had my agency down in Ecuador, at that time, a lot of the banks down there, was economic situation there wasn't good. A lot of the banks were closing.
Right.
And when I say they closed, is that they closed. There's no FDIC or anything.
Right.
So if you had money, you lost it.
Board up the doors and go.
I was kind of lucky because I had my business for about 8 years. The thing, my bank didn't close, but basically they said you can't take your money out for a year.
Right.
I was expecting, well, as soon as I get my money out, after a year, I'll take it to the U.S. because I'm a U.S. citizen, so I can open an account there and leave it there.
Right.
By the time I went to get out my money, let's put it this way: I wouldn't be able to buy a bike, an entry-level bike, with what I get out because of inflation. When I changed it to dollars, it was ridiculous.
So you experienced this inflation. You don't have a nest egg that you thought you were going to have, and yet you still were able to navigate the system to be able to prosper and build an agency here.
Let's start again. Start again. Yeah.
That's honestly, like, listen, a lot of people have great ideas. A lot of people do. I mean, a lot of people have really bad ideas, but a lot of people have great ideas. They just don't have the ability to see some of the obstacles that they're going to overcome. And I think what separates good entrepreneurs, because I talk to them every day, versus entrepreneurs who are more challenged, is the good ones are able to receive an obstacle and it doesn't cripple them to the point where they can't function. They look at it as a challenge and not a barrier, and they work through it and they grow their business. So, and what's great about this, for me, it's very serendipitous with that story, because you're now someone who came here, had that experience, knew how difficult it was, and now you've turned it around to where you're paying it forward with people and helping them. And it's a nonprofit. So if there's one thing people need to know about Prospera, what should they be taking away from this?
Look, if I can really sum it up in a couple of words, I would say it works. It really depends on when the people come here. They have to be patient. I mean, you can't go for people who are offering you a solution. I don't know, a consultant that tells you, you'll be up and running in 2 months and you'll be making hundreds of thousands of dollars by the end of the year.
Right.
It may be the case. It may not. Most likely it won't be, depending on what you're doing. So it's a process, and you have to be patient. You have to do things right, and things will work out. Just put in a lot of work. I mean, it's not for everybody. Not everybody is born to be an entrepreneur. I remember talking to somebody who came in. My first question was, well, why do you want to open up your business? And his answer was, well, I want to spend more time with my family. Right there, that's the worst reason you can have. So it's not for everybody.
Yeah, what's funny is when I worked in a corporate job for years, you'd see guys in the office and they'd always say, I'm going to get out of here and I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And everybody has a plan. Like, everybody's like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, whatever it is. I'm going to work for myself, make my own hours. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And then you don't realize that, after you build the business, you might have the opportunity to do that. But the process of building it isn't just turning a key and going, and you don't have a paycheck coming in. So you got to do all this while you're trying to figure out getting a paycheck and building a business and dealing with human resources and dealing with, all the different things that come with being a business owner, which, it bogs a lot of people down. Like, you got to be sales, you got to be marketing, you got to be accounting, you got to be human resources, you got to be production, you got all those things have to come together. So the theory of being an entrepreneur sounds great until the practical application kicks in and you are waking up at 2:00 in the morning thinking about your business and the day hasn't even started yet. So that's kind of what we have to deal with. So let me ask you this. I am an entrepreneur. I just came here and I don't know where to go or what to do. How do people find you? What is the point of entry? How do they get a hold of Prospera to be able to get the benefit of this nonprofit service?
The easiest way is just to go to our website. Our website is prosperausa.org. And you'll find our contact information there, where you can just call us by phone 813-634-6246. But usually we get inquiries all throughout the website. And that's the easiest way to find us.
Awesome. So folks, if you're listening to this or watching it on our YouTube channel and you're hearing it, you're looking for some help, or you have a family member that's coming here that maybe wouldn't necessarily hear this or see this, and you want to let them know, go to Prospera. The website to get a hold of them is prosperausa.org. It's a nonprofit, prosperausa.org, or you can contact them directly via the phone number here locally in Tampa. It's 813-634-6246. Fabian, thank you for being a tremendously good neighbor by helping your neighbor out to get started. And thank you so much for being on the Good Neighbor podcast. You have an amazing day, my friend.
Thank you very much for letting us, show what we do here. And I appreciate all the support that you're giving us.
Love it, man. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Passcode. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnppasco.com. That's gnppasco.com, or call 813-922-3610.